it was dubbed the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, but you might have noticed the media has taken to calling it just the climate bill. And not just the climate bill, but it's a climate and health bill. Yeah, that's what they're referring to it as. And I mean, here you have people like Blumenthal and others, and Blumenthal, who lied about serving in Vietnam so he could leverage himself and leverage that to get himself into public office. So you have somebody who in the government who lied about his service, who's now lying to you again about what the IRS is or isn't going to do. You have, I was looking at some of the data. In terms of the people in the United States that are worth over 50 million, you have about 90,000 people. Now, I've sent this out before in the email newsletter on Substack. There was a Forbes piece that showed a breakdown, rough percentages of how basically, it was something like over 96% of the millionaires and billionaires in the United States are not old money. The majority of it's actually in tech. There's a lot of manufacturing, things like that, but a lot in tech. It's not this idea of this sort of gilded age, old money being passed down over and over again. It's just simply not true. And the only ones that I think you could even remotely kind of compare to that, you have the Walmart family. What is that? What is their name? The Walmarts. Walton. Yeah, the Walton people. Them. I mean, there's a few others. It's funny because most of them are Democrats. So you have the four wealthy families in San Francisco that run it are the Newsoms, the Pelosi's, the Gettys, and the Hearst family of Hearst Publishing. What was even more interesting, it's kind of a side note. I just always like these weird little things that happen and kind of tie culture and politics together. One of the Hearst kids, I think it was a Hearst or I don't know. One of their daughters, who I don't know what they do, got married. And this was when people were kind of coming out of lockdown, but you had to wear your mask everywhere still. But in California, mostly everything was still locked down, and especially in San Francisco. And they were at this very famous government building known for its Art Deco, the architecture and design. And they had a huge maskless wedding. This was over a year ago there. Everybody was outraged. People in California were outraged because their kids couldn't go to school, but yet these four families got together. And you had Nancy Pelosi, who was pictured there with a Getty, who was pictured there with Gavin Newsom, and then they were at this Hearst girl's wedding. And it was just wild. All the four wealthy families, now they are old money because that's come from a couple of generations. You got to think Getty's, those are the median photographer people. Hearst Publishing, that's some old money. But it's just, it's like you have the Bush family, the Bush beer, Busch. But really that's like kind of the manufacturer. That's like just, I only can give you like a handful of examples. Everybody else they're like the Bill Gateses. They're like the Jeff Bezoses. They're like the Mark Zuckerbergs and the Elon Musk. It's new money. And this idea that, when the IRS was leaking all of this information about wealthy people, they were trying to conflate the idea of new money and old money, ignore how new money made their money, and just get everybody mad at this fabrication of a class of people who have a bunch of money that they didn't earn and don't have to pay tax on. And they did that just so they could emotionally manipulate people into voting for higher taxes. And they should have the fact that they leaked that in the first place, that right there should have been the immediate disqualification for any consideration of either new money going into the IRS or an expansion of the IRS, particularly after a subsequent IG report showed that they only answer their phones 19 to 20% of the time. I mean, first off, they shouldn't even exist in the first place. The IRS is an entirely unconstitutional entity. Was it even properly ratified in the Senate? Because there are a lot of questions about that. It's unconstitutional. It is theft. Just because it's government sanctioned doesn't make it any less of a sin. It is an absolute sin. It is a sinful bureaucracy, a sinful department. It is Sin and agents of sin. The end. It is an entire department that is built upon theft. I don't have anything nice to say. I'm very, it's not what our founders envisioned. In fact, they actually didn't even believe in taxes and levied unless we were in a time of war, which then kind of makes me go into the ditch a little bit with the tinfoil hat about War Inc. and True Cons and neocons and all this other stuff. The True Con and War Inc. and all of this stuff, and the constant perpetuation of wars to maintain this demand for constant taxation. Anyway, my whole point is that you have about 90,000 people in the United States that are worth over $50 million. You have Democrats that want 87,000 new agents because they say they want to go after wealthy tax cheats. That's the line, right? Wealthy tax cheats. The problem, though, is doing the math. Wouldn't that be like 2 per person? 80 for 90,000 people in the United States. You have 87,000 new agents. I mean, that's almost like 2 agents for every wealthy person in the United States. These agents are not for those people. They are not for those people. Those agents are for you.